Welcome, everyone. We are back for another edition of Inside the Industry. As always, I'm Allison Babberl, Content Marketing Manager here at AgencyBloc, and I'm joined by another awesome guest, Mariangel Martinez, owner of North Star Insurance. So good to have you today, Mari.
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out to me and inviting me on your podcast. It's a great opportunity, and I'm super excited to chat with you.
Yeah. And just for anyone listening, Mari did give me full authority to be, on the inside with her and call her Mari. So that's what the
Of
cool
course.
kids do. So in case you run into her, and you just got back from Medicarians and
Did
probably a
did too.
whirlwind of a time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and loved seeing so many people that I only knew virtually, and so working on some content after the event just to give some information.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm so jealous. It is on my bucket list. One of these years, it's going to line up in all the stars and all the schedules so that I can go out to Vegas with you all too. Because, gosh, I
It's a
think it
good
was like
time.
5,000 people or something. I mean,
There's a lot of people, and I think maybe it's because you only see, or not only, but you see a lot of the people from your market. I'm here in Houston, and it just seemed like there was Houston people everywhere, but I feel like that's probably what everybody thinks, regardless of where they're from.
definitely. It's kind of like when you go to a lot of those conferences, you kind of see that same person over and over, and you're like, we should just be friends at this point because
Yeah.
we keep running into each other.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. And I know for me, I'm coming also off of, we just had our BlocBuilder event, which is
Mhm.
our event here at AgencyBloc, and we were in Fort Lauderdale a couple of weeks ago. So it's just been a
Fun.
crazy couple of weeks. It is definitely event season. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do
Of
this
course.
podcast with me.
No, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we do have some really great stuff to get into today. As you know, as I know, about a month ago, CMS launched the final rule 2027. We've all been anxiously awaiting it. I know I talked with a different guest back in January about this coming out and what it was looking like during the proposed time. No longer proposed, everything is going into effect. So
Mhm.
let's kind of dive in, Mari. What are some of the key changes in this rule? And really like the big themes coming out.
Yeah, I think that the best way to look at the changes is separating them between the ones that are going to be affecting the agent operation, the day to day, and then the ones that are going to be affecting or having an impact on our clients and the seniors. And so there's probably like nine in total, I think, that are worth noting, divided between those two sections. And so, of course, the ones that affect the agent day to day, of course, are um, the 48-hour rule on the scope, the timeline, the time frame on the recording, or keeping the recordings, which is going to free up so much of our iCloud storage. The educational events, and actually that one is one of the ones that, at least for North Star, for our agency, it's going to be the most impactful, because we are heavy on educational events. We do those constantly. Our agents are always in front of a crowd, educating seniors, and so that one's going to be, at least for us, the one that's going to impact our day to day the most.
And
um
when you say that, you mean the fact that you don't that you can do SOAs there, or what do you mean by that? Just for the people
oh,
who haven't read
great
through the
question.
rule yet.
Of course. So the fact that it used to be where we couldn't do an appointment or a sales appointment, or even a sales event after an educational event, we had to wait. It couldn't be at in the same building, or even an adjacent building, and I think we had to wait like 12 hours, if I'm not mistaken, before we could do a sales appointment. And so now, for us, because like I said, we have, well, my mission really, Allison, as an immigrant in this country, is to spread the Medicare gospel in the language that people are most comfortable listening to. And I know that we don't have a whole lot of time, and I'm really talkative, so you're going to have to keep me, on topic. But there, I went through a specific experience coming into the country when I was 16 years old and going in high school and not understanding a lot of the instructions that some of my teachers were giving, and just how tough that can be. And these were instructions like just simple instructions, not something like the Medicare system. And so because of my experience, like I said, my mission is explaining Medicare to seniors in whatever language they're most comfortable in. And so that's why we do a lot of educational events constantly. We use social media marketing to advertise these educational events, and then we spread the Medicare gospel, like I said, in multiple languages. And so it used to be a little bit more difficult because there are seniors that would want to take care of the issue or whatever situation they were dealing with their healthcare right there and then. And so I think sometimes I understand where these rules come from, particularly in my opinion, the telesales agent, where a lot of things happen that shouldn't happen, but it is always the field agents that are most affected, and it's the seniors that need that field agent, especially in the immigrant community. You cannot duplicate that connection that you build with someone that is from your country, or that speak. I mean, one of my agents speaks American Sign Language.
Oh, that's really
And
cool.
it's awesome. Her name's Jessica, and she's just absolutely wonderful. She speaks English, Spanish, because she's from Mexico as well as myself, and American Sign Language, like fluently. And so she is someone that, I mean, the stories that she has, anyway, I don't want to get, go in another topic, but we serve these seniors that could never receive the same amount of care and attention and just quality guidance that they get from someone like Jessica. And so they're making an effort to go to these educational events, and then they want to take care of the issue, that the reason why they came from, and we couldn't. We had to set up an appointment for another time, another day, another place, and then have them either, meet us somewhere else, or because sometimes they don't want to invite you to their home. They're some of these homes, especially in the dual community, I feel like sometimes they're even a little bit, embarrassed, shy to invite you over to their homes.
Right. And I
And
think,
so,
coming back to that, like the 28, 48 hour, and that no SOA, no appointment setting at those educational events. I like to think, and there will be mixed opinions on this, but I like to think they came from good intentions, right? Good intentions to create that space. But it is hard for working communities to take off time to make it to this thing and then make it again in 2 days, 4 days, a week, or whatever. And I think those two are those two have been the two I've heard the most, the reduction, or those three that you've mentioned, the reduction of the 48-hour or termination of that, the no appointment setting at educational events, and
the recording, the 10 years got reduced to 6, and then also the not having to say the disclosure right in the first 60 seconds, because I mean, sometimes even though we're field agents, we have to make some calls and do some appointments telephonically. Some seniors rather do that. And it was just so difficult because you have to create a connection with the person that you're talking with, so that there's that trust. And when you're having to hit them with a disclosure in those first 60 seconds, like you said, it's good intentions, but it's tough.
It's like, here, let me read this out loud to you really quick. Then we'll talk like we're actual humans. And I think you're right. Those Those are some of the key pieces. That's four of them. I think you said you had seven. Did you have three others? It's a big bill. It's a like or not bill,
It's
but it's a big
huge.
rule. And I know a lot
Yeah,
of the
so
agents
it
I've
was.
talked to are most excited about the reduction. I know last year I talked to Calvin Bagley and discussing the potential of what was coming in this final rule and saying, hey, again, these things came from, let's say they came from good intentions. We all hope that, right?
Mhm. Of
But at the
course.
end of the day, there are bad actors, and the bad
Mhm.
actors are not getting the consequences. It is the agents like yourself and all the people that were just at Medicarians that are being
Mhm.
impacted that have to
Mhm.
follow these rules. So giving more leniency gives everyone just a bit more space to breathe and ability
Mhm.
to do their job well instead of trying to do their job and also follow X, Y, Z, A, B, C all of the time, which can feel really overwhelming and can feel really weird to your clients.
Right, right. And think about a brand new agent, because like if you've been in the industry for a long time, you know that these rules change because CMS has to, this is the tricky part. They can't set a rule, test it out for a little bit and then say, you know what, it's really not working out. It's not doing what we were intending it to do, so let's switch it back. These are changes that have to at minimum stay in place for a year.
Yeah.
And so a new agent, comes into the industry and they don't know the business. They don't know that these rules change and how everything works. There's so much information in this industry that it's really hard to get an agent fully knowledgeable in a matter of like less than a year. And so they're coming in, hearing all these rules. They think like, I mean, I see it all the time where they're like, I don't want to like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in like, because the compliance rules sometimes can seem like you can't do anything. And so like when for I know that it was to alleviate the bad actors in the telephonic sales, but it was easier for them to say like, hey, you know what, I can't do this because I called you, and but I can hang up right now and then you call me back and then we don't have to wait the 48 hours. And while it's a tough thing to explain to seniors, it could have happened. They could hang up, the senior calls back and it gets done immediately. But what do you do when you are an agent that goes home to home? Like if you have a storefront like we do here at North Star, well, that's also easier because someone's walking in and you could write that application right there and then. But what happens to an agent that is going to all these homes? Like, what do you say? Like, well, you know what? Let's have the appointment like in my car, and then you just like walk into my like. It was just the agent that was mostly affected by some of these rules were the ones that are out in the field serving people, and so it's just it is great news. It definitely was. Some of these was a win, like I said, for us. The educational event, the sales appointment or sales event right after an educational is going to be just a game changer for the way that we operate. And I did say that I had a few more, but some of them are affecting more the seniors, like the Part D redesign and all that stuff.
And I think also it would also affect agents that work in multiple states. I know you're mainly in the Houston area,
Mhm.
but I know a lot of Medicare agents that have multiple states. Like I know Medicare agents here in Iowa who serve Iowa and
Mhm.
Nebraska and Missouri. And like, although they're not that far away, it's still a drive. And if you're
Of
meeting with
course.
those people in person, you have to drive and
Mhm.
then you're there a few days. Like it's a lot of pre-planning, and I know you
Mhm.
and I were just talking about it's hard to memorize everything in this rule, but
Mhm.
I think this rule is also giving a lot more space for agents to work instead of always being on compliance, always focusing on, oh, am I acting right? Am I doing right?
Absolutely.
Am I going to get slapped on the hand? And I think it also opens the
Mhm.
opportunity for new agents to enter the field. We've kind of been
Of
in a
course.
reduction lately of
Mhm.
agents getting out because it's getting too complicated, right? You have to
It
have the
is.
right tools. I come from the software side and keeping up with all of these compliance to make
Yeah.
sure you can play that recording, that you can store your recordings, that you
Mhm.
have the SOA, you can do the 48-hour, like those are all things we put into place to stay up to date, but you have to have all of that. And that's extra things to think about each day on top
It
of the
is.
compliance you have to think about. And then also memorize the plans and the changes and everything, like you just mentioned, the Part D redesign. That's a really critical piece to
It
know when you're talking to your agents. And, that's one reason I wanted to have you on, Mari. I know you're great with other languages, but even translating it from CMS government speak into, hey, this is what this means as a human to a human, right? My parents are
absolutely.
Not Medicare aged, and I don't call
Mhm.
them and read them the CMS guidelines. They would
Right.
probably go to sleep. You take it, you look at it, you ingest it, you redeliver it in a way that makes sense. And I think
Of
that's
course.
really crucial. And this rule gives agents and agencies across the nation that ability to just act more human, which is really critical now with all this AI coming out and the changes with technology.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're so up to date on all of this, Mari. What are some of the places you really go to? What are your go-to sources to get some of
Mhm.
this information that you can then internalize and then translate back to your community, whether that is in Spanish, ASL, or just like, hey, this is what this actually means, speak.
Right. So like we said, we were at Medicarians, and I ran into a good friend of mine, and from the industry, and he was like, he said, you're a total nerd. So let me ask you. And he was like, I mean that like as a compliment. And I told him I only take that as a compliment. So thank you. I have an obsession, but I am I'm always researching and trying to read and asking and trying to find, and I think it is an obsession, but I use multiple sources. With AI nowadays, it's just so wonderful to find different sources for credible information. But of course, the Wall Street Journal is one of them. The Kaiser Foundation, I follow a lot of what they do as well. Milliman is one of my favorites because I love statistical data and numbers and trends. I love seeing trends, and so they do a lot of that kind of research. So I read a lot about the things that they post. LinkedIn is a great source as well, and just finding those people that, as I'm reading articles, or someone that reported something really interesting, then I go and I follow. It's like a rabbit trail, I think is what they call it. English is not my first language, so sometimes sayings, I say them completely wrong, and people, I guess, find it funny or maybe enduring. I don't know, but I follow the trail,
Yeah,
and
I don't
so
start using that. And
yeah.
honestly, where I found you, you were posting about some of the different changes, and I started following you. I know I follow a lot of different agents in the field. We both know Amanda Bruton and a lot of
Mhm,
the other
mhm.
ones that are sharing that content out. And I think for a new agent, especially, or someone that just doesn't quite know yet what they want to do or
Mhm.
how to do it right, I think LinkedIn's a really great place to get in and just start
Truly.
following, be that fly on the wall to learn and better understand how to read the CMS rules coming out. Because again, they're not written like, it's not a book you want to sit down and just read and have a good time, right? It is. I
Right.
always think of it. I don't know if you have ever had to read the Odyssey. I read the Odyssey in, I think, middle school, and I found it to
Mhm.
be a great bedtime story. I got a couple of
Yep.
pages in and I'd fall asleep. And that's kind
Right.
of what these rules are like. So I
Yep.
think that's a great place for agents to go to learn more. All
Right,
right.
because it's concise. And you talked about Amanda, and we talked about Brandon earlier. Like, what they do is even like next level, because they're out there, advocating for the rights of the agent. So them two are definitely people that I love to follow and see what they're posting, what they're informing other agents on, and it's LinkedIn is definitely a great place. Mhm.
Yeah, another one I follow, Jared Strock. He posts a lot about the
Mhm.
changes in
Right.
all the
Yeah,
graphs.
his newsletter is wonderful. I agree. Mhm.
I'm a nerd like you, and I don't know if obsession is the right word or just dedication, but I love the
I like that
graph.
one.
See,
That's a better way. I couldn't think of a word like to spin it positively, but there you go. Dedication. I like it.
dedication. There you go. Well, from one dedicated nerd to the other,
Mhm.
Mari, is there anything else? I know we hit on some of the biggest pieces, the 48-hour rule, the
Mhm.
reduction in retention, which is huge for the, and also introducing transcripts as a
Mhm.
capability that you can have house the transcripts of the calls and not necessarily the full call recording, which
Absolutely.
also is easier to use because no one wants to listen back to an hour-long call and write down
Right.
all your notes again. So transcripts are huge. The educational,
Huge, huge. And like in Medicarians, I noticed that the third most popular topic when you look at all the sessions combined was AI.
yes,
And it makes perfect sense because of where everything is nowadays. And so these AI transcript apps or tools like Granola and Otter and even Loom. There's several that we use here at the agency. It's just it's wonderful because not only does it, like you said, nobody wants to sit through a long call, but it also helps us as agents to have a summary of what every client conversation. My agents even do this with in-person appointments because it just helps you have a summary of everything that was said with your client.
yeah,
You can go back and just remember. If you see them year two, sometimes you don't remember all those conversations that happened the previous year. And so it's just a wonderful tool to remember things, like even like when they mentioned when their anniversary is. When I was because I'm not a selling agent anymore. I dedicate myself to train and empower and build the agents in my team. But one of the things that I think helped me be a successful agent was that I was someone that I wrote everything. If they told me the name of the dog in the conversation, if they told me that their grandson was graduating, if they said they were celebrating an anniversary, I wrote all those things down because then I would keep up with them. And how was the graduation? And congratulations to your grandson, just stuff like that. So these transcripts is definitely something that is going to help every single agent out there. And we're not going to deal with like, oh, my phone I ran out of storage in the middle of the call, because I know that happens sometimes. And so good news on this final rule for sure.
yeah.
We
I think
needed it.
we did
We
need
needed
it.
a final rule with some good news.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was just
Last
going to say
year's
that.
was like, man.
I think this year is much more on the positive side. That came out and everyone's going,
Mhm.
oh, okay, this is exciting, instead of going,
Yeah.
oh,
Right. Like maybe they
okay.
don't hate us as much as we thought. So yeah, some good news.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you. I know you've got a lot going on. We're coming up on AEP. It's going to be here before we know it. I know it's April right now, but AEP is not that far away. So I'll
Right?
let you get back to it. I appreciate you coming on and talking about some of these trends and just sharing what they mean and what they mean to agents in the field and giving insight into how other agents can learn more. I really appreciate your time today,
Of
Mari. And
course.
I feel like you and I could do a 3-hour podcast and still only be on the first three things of the trends. So,
Absolutely. You're completely right. I mean, I warned you. I'm
yeah,
very long-winded. So thank you for keeping
awesome.
me on time.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And we'll see everyone back here again for our next edition of Inside the Industry next month.